the arc of the witches in Wicked. We've only seen in the movie the first part, right? Which is two women, a white witch, a green, but presenting, filling in as a black woman witch, and their allyship and their friendship. And them both hearing from the Wizard of Oz the direct quote that what the people really need to come together is a good enemy. Dun dun. Right? That line really hit the weekend before the election. But part two isn't coming out till end of next year. And how that allyship plays out, readers and watchers of the musical know, but it's a moment. And that was the fact that they cast Elphaba
Don't spoil it.
No, they cast Elphaba as a black woman in the first one, and a black woman who was so deeply talented, and her voice and everything she's done, and that the black woman is the one standing up for justice and what is right. I'm Nayyera Hawk.
Hey, I'm Jamal Simmons. It's good to be here. How are you, Nayyera?
I mean, it is going to be an interesting 2025. I am personally ready to close a chapter on 24. It was a weird year.
It was a weird year. Obviously, it didn't turn out, electorally as many of us thought. It also, it's just all of it was kind of strange. But the lead up to the campaign was nuts. There was just a lot of things that happened.
Yeah, the politics were strange. I remember a big part of 2024 thinking, oh my God, are we seriously doing this again? Didn't we just do this 4 years ago? Can't we have something feel different? And wait a second. Things suddenly started to feel different. But to help level set with all of our listeners right now, you and I both came to this with a couple of things that we thought were big moments for 2024. Why don't you get us started off, Jamal?
All right. So, there are lots of things that happened. Welcome to the show. It's good to be here on Trailblaze with you, Nayyera, and all the people who are listening. I have been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks because the year is going by. I also, I'm thinking a lot about next year. I want to be positive, but as you said, we got to tie a bow on last year. So there are a couple of things that happened last year. I'll just give you my first one, and it's going to be a political one. It starts with the privilege of Donald Trump. Donald Trump got convicted of a felony. Donald Trump got found liable for sexual assault. Donald Trump had a business that was almost put in receivership in New York because of fraudulent issues. And Donald Trump was still able to, one, run for president, credibly, and then two, get elected. I just imagine still if a Barack Obama, a Kamala Harris, and Elizabeth Warren. I mean, you name the person.
And Jamal Simmons or a Nayyera Hawk. What do you mean?
Exactly. You name them, and imagine if they got a speeding ticket in the middle of a campaign. I can remember. I mean, look, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, that kind of privilege, people, I know not every white person is privileged. And I don't want to say that they are in their day-to-day lives, but Donald Trump, for sure, benefited from the kind of benefit of the doubt that not a single person of color is entitled to in this country, according to the way we work.
Let's add on to that the Elon Musk of it all. The idea of being one of the richest men in the world, and that doesn't suffice. And after taking over a social media platform that reaches millions, that is what gives you a direct line to the president and being able to do and whatever you want to say or do about policy, and you're unelected. So that's part of this cadre of privileged people that now get to rule over the rest of us. Because I don't think it's going to be terribly democratic. It's going to be them ruling over America.
Yeah, but I know this isn't the topic of the moment, but I got to tell you, it is something about the fact that the kind of the cultural angst people, the people who are mad about brown people taking over the country, the people who don't want to have any immigration at all, are in a war with the billionaires and the millionaires who are saying, like, let's have more immigration so that we can build up our companies and make ourselves richer. And I got to tell you, I'm not necessarily against H-1B visas and visas for people who go to school here, because I know we're in a global competition. Competition is on for talent around the world. I'm just saying, let's invest some talent and some money in everybody in the country so that we can have our domestic audience, our domestic population be able to fulfill the jobs they're going to take. But just as a spectator, I'm with Joy Reid. I just want to sit here and eat my popcorn and watch the whole thing take place because it's pretty amazing to watch the Civil War take place.
So the one was the privilege. Two is, I mean, let's continue on this immigration theme because, whoa, did that just take all sorts of twists and turns this last year? I mean, this was not Reagan leaving the White House in his last speech talking about how immigrants are vital for the economy and this is the beacon of hope to the world that the United States present. I mean, this is not how Americans talk about immigration anymore. In fact, Reagan had the highest number of refugees. It's declined steadily since his era, and he was the last time the United States has managed to reform immigration in any meaningful way. So leave that benchmark there and roll forward to the idea that legal migrants to the US, in this case the Haitians, who were welcomed into Ohio towns because they were considered hardworking and once again willing to do jobs that other Americans were not. We're up there on a debate stage, and the president of the United States is talking about how these people who are migrants eat pets, cats, and dogs. And now fast forward a couple of months later, and that same party is having a fight about high-skilled immigration, which is fuels Silicon Valley and the visas that are needed for that. And one of the leaders of Doge decided that he wanted to insult Americans and their culture. I'm like, wow, I don't understand what message you guys are trying to sell here to the American public, but for a brown immigrant 30-something-year-old millionaire to be insulting the rest of American culture by saying that migrants from South Asia tend to work harder and they're smarter. I'm like, did you get stuffed into a locker a few times in high school? Were there just like one too many swirlies that happened that you really do just think that you made it in America because of yourself and your immigrant work ethic? I mean, I just thought, as somebody who is the child of my immigrants myself and heard so many of these messages, I just think it's hilarious that they haven't even started their government yet. And they're already fighting with each other about what it means to be an American and what immigration should look like.
It was so Mitt Romney, 47%. It was so corporations are people too. It was so disconnected from where everybody else is and the way that they started talking about Americans being mediocre. Mediocre. I just think that I don't know. I think that it's a moment that tells us something about what's coming. But I've been reading a lot about the 1800s because I feel like there are a lot of corollaries to where we are now and what happened in the past. And I was just reading about the presidential election of 1876, right? That's the one that we all learned in social studies or history in college about the Hayes-Tilden Compromise, right? Rutherford B. Hayes runs for president in 1876. He's the Republican, which at the time Republicans were the good guys. And then Hayes-Tilden is the Democrat. Democrats were the party of the Confederacy. The Tilden people wanted to end Reconstruction. They wanted to get U.S. troops out of the South. They wanted Reconstruction to be over. The Hayes people were the Republicans. They still were saying like they still wanted to see what was going to happen with Reconstruction. So there's a contested election. We all see this contested election. Maybe there was some chicanery happening in different states, Louisiana, Mississippi, who was, what was going to happen, what happened with the election boards. So they struck this deal. They struck this deal between the Democrats and Republicans. Ultimately, and they also didn't know at the time how to resolve this. There was like a one electoral count difference in the vote, and they didn't know how to resolve this. And so they put this deal together where Rutherford B. Hayes, the Republican, would get to be president, but he would adopt the platform of Tilden, the Democrat, in order to take the office, which meant Reconstruction would be over. So basically, the Republicans traded the well-being of the freedmen, the formerly enslaved people of the South. They traded their political future for, they traded the actual future, the legal future of these Black people for their political power. So even though the Republicans won, they still adopted the Democratic platform. So at the end of the day, to me, this is a lot to me. It feels like what happened with immigration. It was as if everybody in the country, because the truth is politics are a reflection of the society. And the
Mm-hmm.
truth is what happened in 1876 is that white people were over dealing with Reconstruction. They were over the Civil War. They were tired of fighting about it. They just wanted it all to be over, which allowed the politicians to cut this kind of a deal. And I feel like that's where we are with immigration. So many people are just angsty about what's happening with the economy. Immigration is the foil. And I think, you know, they really pushed to have immigration be this this issue that even Democrats had to have a tougher line on the border this year than they probably would have had before. The difference this year is we all thought we were going to have this sort of wrestled out election. It didn't turn out we didn't have a wrestled out election. It turns out Tilden, the Confederates, just won outright. And so they got to do whatever the heck they want to do, and we're going to all have to live with the consequences.
So to underscore the point, right, of that presidential election and this one, that idea that a party, in order to win or trying to win, was just willing to swap away its policies. Like, great, we don't care about this policy anymore. We just need to win. And I think that's an argument a lot of Democrats are making right now, which is winning is more important. The challenge is that if people don't know who you are and what you stand for and what your belief system is, it's impossible to be authentic. It's impossible to win. But that's fundamentally the challenge that we've had with immigration, right? Who could be more strict, more conservative, more to the right in this last year. And so that as a topic was a wash for Democrats. And if anything, the agenda and the narrative had been set by Trump and the Republican Party. And what we're seeing now is that some of these things are popping up. The realities are popping up of policy that don't fit the story that everybody had been told.
Yeah.
And for example, H-1B visas are given for high-skilled migrants. And they are given when companies, after companies prove they cannot and have tried to hire domestically. We have the same challenge with agriculture workers. And so this is where companies and CEOs say, we don't have the workforce here in America. American innovation is something different. But when it comes to the plug and chug and just the experience of getting the stuff done, whether it be at a chicken plant or whether it be at a corporate farm, bot farm, we don't have that in the United States right now. So that goes to your investment and innovation front. But the problem solving in real time is not, that skill is not there in the Trump administration right now. You close on the one point that I want to bring forward for us, right? So point one, the word was privilege. Point two, the word was immigration. Point three, I want to go with the word mandate because we hear it a lot and it's not holding up to the data. And I think it's a dangerous thing to just adopt as we head into 2025, that Trump, the Confederacy, whoever has a mandate to do whatever they want. It is a win. Democrats have acknowledged the win. All sorts of centrists and non-political people have acknowledged the win. We're like, we get it. There is no election denialism here about the Trump winning. However, it is the lowest popular vote margin in recent history by far. Right. So 1.4% of people at the end of the day, when all the ballots were counted, favored Donald Trump. So that is not a mandate. That is still a very divided country when it comes to preferences about policy, preferences about leadership. There are many ways to move forward, but a mandate, it is not.
So I like to say that it is, it's decisive, right? It's not necessarily a mandate, but it is decisive. And that's because you saw them win, you know, all three branches of government, or the three political branches, right? The White House, the House, the Senate. And so that part was the part that was surprising. So if you see that, that decisiveness is important. But here's the part where it's really not a mandate, and it's really not even a vote for this. Donald Trump told people in the election he didn't know anything about Project 2025. He told people that he wasn't going to hire those people. He didn't believe in it. He didn't know anything about it. And now what we're seeing is they are implementing Project 2025. They are hiring the people who wrote Project 2025. So there really is no decision, no vote that it probably existed that was for Project 2025 when the candidate running said he wasn't for it.
That goes to that broader idea of, don't go with what people are telling you, people in power right now are telling you in this moment so that they can save themselves. RFK Jr., any of the nominees are going to say things to senators in the moment. Look at what they have done and what they have consistently said over time. Right?
Yeah,
so in the moment, Trump denied Project 2025 because it served his political future. The reality was 140 of his own former staffers were there. Those are the people who developed it, who are now getting appointed, who are now coming into government. I mean, it was a blueprint, and it was a very effective blueprint. So they have told us, we know this. The idea that sitting here now today, like, oh, this person now disavows everything that they ever said they were going to do. Okay, I believe that, is, if you're a senator, that is political malpractice, and you're doing that just to save your own political skin. For the rest of us, that's the fool me twice, right? Shame on us if we don't recognize what we have in front of us. So then I will throw into that a fourth word, then,
wait.
which
Can
is...
Can I do my outrage? Because you got to get all yours out before I get another one.
I did get my outrage out. I did.
I know. Because you're outraged. You're outraged. It's outrageous. It's easy to be outraged by the outrage.
I'm resigned right now. The outrage was like a month ago. Now I'm like, all right, let's be frank about what we're dealing with.
Right. Okay. All right. So here's mine, because this one's for the Democrats. There are these people, I'm sure many of them are friends of mine, who are still trying to make the argument that what happened at that debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump last summer was not that big of a deal, should not have been decisive, and maybe Joe Biden should have stayed in the race going into the fall as the candidate for president. And I just have to say, I love you guys. I love Joe Biden. I love the fact that he won. I love the fact that I got to work in his White House. He should not have been the candidate for president going into the fall. We all can see it right now. God love him, again, he's barely being president right now. Like, barely. His name's on the door. Where's he? We don't see him. He's not out. So I just think we have to, we got to accept the right thing happened, which was the country saw where he really was with his age, and that was appropriate. And nothing's wrong with the fact that he's an older guy and he needs to slow it down. That is nature. Country saw it, and we all saw it, and maybe Kamala Harris couldn't pull it all off in 100 days. But I got to tell you, I think that Senator Ruben Gallego is thankful that Kamala Harris was on that ballot and not Joe Biden. I don't know if he would have survived the vote that would have happened if, Joe Biden must have still had been on the ballot last November.
I think there are so many abortion rights activists at the states who worked hard to get ballot measures passed to protect abortion in state constitutions, Maryland being one of them, elsewhere, that are also thankful that there was a stronger, more vocal, more present Democrat at the top of the ticket. Because while it didn't win for Kamala in some of these states, the issue set definitely won, and that is a deeply progressive issue set. I was one of the earlier folks who said it would be a good idea for this entire generation, the gerontocracy is the official term when a country is run by the aging, not elders, but the aging, and grandpa showing us how to retire and what wonder retirement can bring later in life. And this next phase is great. But to call people in their 40s who have mortgages and children too young to lead is a big problem. And that's across our political system right now. So I'm done with the gerontocracy. And indeed, did not see this election playing out this way at all. But Biden had promised when he ran for office, and I think we underestimate how many people, including myself, believe that promise in casting their votes prior to the previous election, that he would pass the torch to another generation. And that did not happen within the Democratic Party. It just didn't.
The thesis of the entire election was that Joe Biden was competent and Donald Trump was chaos, and he wasn't going to work, and it would be a disaster. But once we saw that Joe Biden might not be as competent as we thought, you kind of lost the thread, right? Like, I'm not sure that we can make the argument we were trying to make, which is that maybe his body's slow, but his mind is still agile. We didn't see that. And so once that happens in that big way, you just kind of got to make a pivot and make a move. And we did the best we could with what we had, which is all you can ever do. So God bless them, and God bless us all, because we're going to need it. You have one more outrage?
No, but that was number 4, I think, right? That's the debate moment, but also just the broader challenge of dealing with aging politics, right? And moving forward. I have one, so I guess this is 5, where we're at, is women who took back their power. And it's not just in politics, right? We've talked about abortion rights so many times on this show, and that continues to be a winning issue for Democrats, generally speaking. And But there were several pop culture moments that stuck out to me also, separate from the fact that Kamala Harris actually did get the nomination and the party coalesced around her, which I did not believe the party was going to be capable of doing that. Let's be real. I was like, this party, I was like, wow, you guys actually backed her up. How about that? That's kind of shocking and amazing to me.
I
But
will say women basically made that happen. Women basically put their, especially women of color, put their foot down and stomped like any opposition to that idea out of the
oh
body
yeah, that you're
politic. You
gonna
just couldn't
get
do it.
rid of
Couldn't do it.
the only other person elected on the ballot, which was Kamala Harris as vice president, and replace it with who? Right, seriously, like with who? Some other white man? Like that was not going to work.
Not gonna
So
work.
I was
Not gonna work.
intellectually and spiritually, whatever, really surprised and also welcoming of them. Like, oh, okay, look, people can take big swings and coalesce around that. But in the pop culture side, I think that's reflected throughout the year. I watched the Simone Biles documentary, Rising, and watched it during the Olympics, and her comeback and her frank talk about what it means to go through a mental health crisis and how that impacts not only your work, but everything in your life and your self-image, and her opening up in that way and then coming back and winning all of it, right? It was such a wonderful story and example of resilience, but the resilience that comes with taking care of yourself, understanding what you're good at, what you're not. That whole thing was just amazing and beautiful to see. And my second part about women claiming their power, and this one remains unsolved right now in pop culture, and that is the arc of the witches in Wicked. We've only seen in the movie the first part, right? Which is two women, a white witch, a green, but presenting, filling in as a black woman witch, and their allyship and their friendship. And them both hearing from the Wizard of Oz, the direct quote that what the people really need to come together is a good enemy. Dun, dun, dun. Right? That line really hit the weekend before the election. But part 2 isn't coming out till end of next year. And how that allyship plays out, readers and watchers of the musical know, but it's a moment. And that was the fact that they cast Elphaba
Don't spoil it.
No, they cast Elphaba as a black woman in the first one, and a black woman who was so deeply talented, and her voice and everything she's done, and that the black woman is the one standing up for justice and what is right. Deeply, deeply powerful moment. And to see that visually and then to see that be welcomed across the country, that for me was actually a great moment. So I wanted to, at least my part, not close with outrage.
We have a weird
pop
thing.
culture moments for women this last year.
Yeah, we have a weird thing in our culture about this, and I just think it's it's the Oprah thing, it's the magical Negro thing, right? We actually don't mind having we don't mind having like a strong black woman or like a mystical black man, the Bagger Vance, of Will Smith,
the mammy,
who's gonna come,
the mammy trope,
who's gonna come and like rectify the situation or teach us all the right way, or be the moral upstanding person that calls everybody out to be better humans and better people. Like this is like a thing that we do in our kind of culture thing. And so we believe in this idea of having these black women, these women of color who are our spiritual guides, right? Who are the ones who are going to kind of take us to, like, call us to be better selves. But we don't like them to lead. I think we're still not quite okay if they are, once our better selves get going, that they actually run the show. And I think we still have not made peace with the fact that these women who, have raised so many of us also can be in charge of the country.
Oprah and Michelle Obama deciding not to run for president. They deeply, deeply popular until women asked for more power. All right. And the last thing about the witches of Wicked.
Here's my last. Oh, go ahead.
Last thing about the witches of Wicked is the stage version very much talked about anti-Semitism. Idina Menzel, beautiful voice. She was Elphaba, but the characters and the who gets cast, they've chosen to lean into the identities they bring. So it's a slightly different version of how things are seen, and the choice and to lean into the actress's Black identity, I think, was also very well timed and powerful.
Yeah, no, I thought right before I took my nap, I thought it was really good because I went to go see it with my kids, and I will tell you, I have become that
Really?
parent that's in the corner, knocked out for 30 minutes during the movie.
Did
But
you?
when
I
I got
mean,
when I woke up, it was great. I really
I
liked it.
mean, were you there for Defying Gravity? Were you awake for that? You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you?
Doesn't
Okay, moving on. What's your
does
thing?
not feel
What's your thing?
doesn't feel familiar. But mine is also I think a Disney movie is so here's my beef from the year. I huge fan of Moana, right? It's like
Mm,
maybe my favorite Disney movie, Moana.
I think I
Moana
know where this is going.
and Encanto. Encanto is
Hmm.
my other one, who is like those are like my two favorite. I spend a lot of time, as you guys have now figured out between the two of us. We have these small kids, spend a lot of time watching bad cartoons. And then so when
These
there's a
are good
good cartoon
ones.
movie,
Yes. Yes.
when there's a good one, like I love it.
Hmm.
I just delve right into it. Love Moana too. Here's my problem. No Lin-Manuel Miranda, right? And so when we lost the Lin-Manuel Miranda written songs, God bless the women and the people who wrote the
Hmm.
songs. They did a good job. But there's no "You're Welcome."
You know,
There's
Shining.
no
Yeah. There's no bop.
yeah,
There's no bop
there's
that
no
came out of
bop.
it.
There's no song that I walked out of there still singing, and today I still
Hmm.
have on, I'll pick up
Hmm.
and play when my kids are getting in the bathtub to like get the movie. Like there's not really a Moana 2 soundtrack
Mm-mm.
like hit that's just jumping off
Mm-mm.
the page of me. So I will say, for all the people who are writing the next cartoon movies, just go hire Lin-Manuel Miranda. I don't care how much it costs. Spend the money. We'll like
He
you.
was an
The
executive
audience will love
producer for this. I just don't think he wanted to do it.
well, what I read was he said that it was never an opportunity because this was supposed to be
A TV
a
series.
series. Moana
Yeah.
2 was supposed to be like a show on Disney 2, so it was not the same kind of thing. And they'd been figuring this out since 2020. And so now, when they did it, it just wasn't like, oh, should we have Lynn or not? But I'm
Hmm.
just saying
Hmm.
he should have co-wrote. They should have at least had a couple of like Lin-Manuel Miranda like headbangers to make us all feel
With a
better.
slight caveat,
Throw him
he
in at
can
the
write
end.
them.
Throw him
He could write them, but he doesn't need to sing all of them. Actually, in fact,
no,
it's better if he doesn't
no,
sing all of them. He doesn't have the best
no.
voice out of all of them. But
No, but Dwayne
amazing
the Rock
storyteller and
doesn't have
writer.
a great voice either, right? The Rock doesn't have a great voice, but he sang that song as Maui, right? And we all
Hmm.
kind of went along with it because it was written so well and the song was
Hmm.
so wonderful. So
Hmm.
that's what I got for
So
you out of my Disney
we need
songbook.
a better Disney bops. This clearly doesn't seem to have affected how Moana 2 has done in the box office. It continues to make
No,
money,
I
but
loved it. It was a good movie.
parents need another Disney bop for 2025. So give us something so we can move past Frozen and Moana 1. That's my request for
Well, I will tell you this.
2025.
Okay, so since we're on this, here's my last thing on Disney movies. I know we were way afield from politics, but hopefully people still like this part. Is in Encanto. So Encanto is just like the great
Hmm.
movie. There's the whole thing about Bruno. And one of my rules now, and as I write and think about politics and talk to young people, is sooner or later we're gonna have to talk about Bruno,
Yep.
right?
We
Like
don't talk about
people
Bruno,
want to
but we're going to have
hide.
to.
People want to not talk about the thing that's uncomfortable. They want to not go into the thing that's a little sensitive. But if you're actually going to connect with the people,
Hmm.
you're going to have to talk about Bruno, or we're going to have to get the
The
uncomfortable
irony
shit
is
out
that
on the
whole
table.
song about people saying we don't talk about Bruno, they are talking about Bruno. They're talking about not talking about Bruno. And this is exactly what happened this last election cycle. Everybody was talking about it. They just didn't do the things
Way
and
to
confront it when they came out in public on camera. Saying.
way to bring it home. I like the circle. Okay, that's very good, Nayyera. Those are our outrages for the year. I think we got a bunch of stuff that people could talk about. And whether we're talking about Joe Biden or we're talking about Trump's privilege or we're talking about immigration or we're talking about Disney movies. There's a lot to be
Immigration,
outraged.
yeah.
But next year, there's more to be happy about, right? We're going to find some things to
I think you
celebrate.
might have jinxed us by saying that. So let's just wrap while we're up ahead. Next year is going to be different. And we're going to turn the page at midnight tonight. Folks, make sure that you sign, log in, whatever, register. No, that's not the word. What is the word? Subscribe. That's the word. Subscribe to our podcast. Just subscribe. Subscribe. Give us a nice comment or two.
Share,
we'll take it.
and subscribe. That's what we want you to do right here on Trailblaze. Good night, y'all.